There has been a bit of radio silence over the past few days, mainly because I've been working on things which I just don't think would necessarily translate well to video, kind of tedious, monotonous stuff. You might think already this is what this channel has defined itself by, but no, folks. I was sensitive to some of the changes and, you know, would prefer basically to provide these things as a kind of talk over of the code more than anything. So I think probably the last thing we did, let me see, I think the pathogen breakdown, let's see where that is. Yeah, this is the last one that I did, where I walked through actually establishing. Now, you might see through that video that I'm attempting to do things like basically connect the pathogen stuff, so future runs or future analysis has the pathogen stuff automatically turned on. That required a little bit more code. So I did that the day following and retabulated. But basically added an additional, where is it? Watch pathogens, which is a state that is set. So you add watch pathogens here, you add pathogens, watch pathogen 4, and I think that's about it. I would just add watch pathogens. So that's what that is. The next bit of code was I wanted the immune system to be standalone code. So I wanted it in its own C file. And I then wanted to add, and I haven't done this yet, I will actually do this in video form, like unit testing and other stuff around the pathogen code, just so we can get a better understanding of how to make it robust and, what needs to change through it. I think it's an interesting point of analysis, particularly like grouping like code and just doing a bunch of cleanup related stuff. But the first step is to break out the pathogen code, which I did here. And I also utilized this as an opportunity to, so these are now all immune rather than being immune. I also use this as an opportunity to clean up a bunch of different bits and pieces of code. And I think I also use this for explicitly saying random seed. So these are just to get the immune system in. So basically it's only acting on the immune system now. It's not acting on the being code. Historically, what happened was it took the being code. Now it just takes the immune system code from being, from simulated being. So this is a bit of a cleanup, moving ingest pathogen, take the immune system and the food type. So just basically moving it one layer down and passing in that specifically to make the standalone code work a bit better. And here, like I said, changing it to random seed. Surprisingly few locations needed to be actually updated for that change. But yeah, here just making sure that everything goes back to the immune stuff, and again a cleanup. There were multiple places where this code was, which was kind of strange. It was being linked through different things. Not ideal. Needed to be cleaned up. And like I said, adding random seed. So that was that change. Now there's always one thing, and my IDE put universe.h/. Now, I should note this, that the ApeSDK has pipelines that run. And the first pipeline is associated with building it. And the second pipeline is a series of tests. And we'll open this up. And a number of these tests are actually designed to like throttle the simulation and do a bunch of other stuff. And some of them are code coverage as well. So you'll see the coverage ones and you'll see the time ones, which are all about throttling the simulation and test sim. And the issue here with test sim specifically was that it just failed. Now I need to talk about what test sim is. The code, there are certain changes that you'll make that will update the way the simulation works without actually changing the underlying simulation results. The changes made previously, specifically around randomization. So basically, the random number generator changed through this, and I can explain a little bit why when we... So if we see where simulation immune is actually defined, somewhere it's defined. Here we go. Here. I added a random seed to simulated immune system, and I did this because previously it used the being random seed, this one here. But the problem with that is that if I want this to be standalone, I want it just to basically the immune system to run on its own, which means it needs its own random seed. Now, the random seed as it was connected here, would update periodically. And now I'm moving the random seed down. I copy it down, and then it runs on its own cycle. Typically, well, where do we have code examples of this? So typically what I'm doing here is rather than, so this is the initial one that sets the random seed. Now every use of the random seed here normally would have been against the being random seed, but instead is against the immune system random seed, which is actually a different value. Like I'm physically copying the numbers here. I'm not copying a pointer location, I'm just copying the numbers. So that means that the randomizer is out, which means that you come back to test sim, and all the random numbers that have been generated through the simulation have changed. So here, thankfully, with test sim, it actually gives you the numbers. Like most unit tests of this kind, it gives you the numbers that it's now set to. So it'll tell you everything that it's now set to. But you just have to update these numbers based on, you know, what has changed with the randomizer changing. And it's interesting, all these different parameters change. I mean, some of them are like movement deltas, distance deltas. The simulation really changes if the random number generator is played with in any way. And that's what happened here. I've made some adjustments. It fixed the issue, basically. But it's a good warning as well, because if you make code changes and you think to yourself, should the random number generator change here? Like, why is the random number generator changing from this code change? Well, this one can be explained. But if it happens in the future, if you make a change and then mysteriously test sim fails, it's like, well, you know, you've got to trace it back. You've got to work out why the random number generator is doing something different. So that fixed test sim. And the final thing is occasionally, periodically, I run artisticstyle on the code base. And I typically do this every couple of years. And when I pulled out the new immune.c, I realized I probably should run it again. And I don't really get a sense of, let's see what the alterations, there weren't really that many. I think I need to be more aggressive with the artisticstyle stuff, because realistically, most of it is just white space. So some of it is, yeah, it's mainly just white space tabulations. And these are things that I've added in the past year. Move it back, you know, all this good stuff. When you copy and paste over, it's changed. And I think I need to probably make it slightly more aggressive. So if you look at immune, yeah, unfortunately, I want to get into this stuff and actually make this more like, let's put spaces on either side of this. So I probably need to play with artisticstyle just a little bit to get these features. Like, this stuff should be more readable, basically. So unfortunately, yeah, mainly just white space changes with artisticstyle this time. And I probably need to, you know, dig into it more to actually get the spacing and stuff right around this. But it's a relatively useful utility. I just have a script that runs and it updates basically everything based on that. And obviously with all the unit testing and stuff, if something goes wrong, I know something's gone wrong. But yeah, probably needs to be a little better with regards to like internal formatting as well. So that is the update based on code changes. I thought I could cover it a lot faster doing it in a diff style. And yeah, a number of things to do now to make the immune simulation standalone, write unit tests around that. Also just look at code simplification. If you look at the code around the immune system currently, there's a lot of similar logic here. And part of it could be actually linking the shape and count together. I think that would simplify some of it. But yeah, I haven't done a deep dive, so I'm going to do a deep dive in the next video, and we can talk more about that accordingly.